Hello people, it is I again. Another little video for you. This one is all about Karl Lentz and his educational videos that have been recorded on YouTube and TalkShoe and various other places. But again, I just want to cover over on this video the term you, or the word you, and how it is used and its etymology, origins, legal uses, English uses, common uses. But most importantly, I was listening through an old video of Carl's, and I thought, the problem with Carl's videos is that it's just like it's a quagmire. It's very difficult to reference or find the thing that you're after. I mean, Craig's done his best. This chap, Craig Lynch, has done his best to kind of title these videos with the relevant information, but sometimes there's a little gold nugget in one video, there's a gold nugget in another, and it's just literally a very analog system of going through the whole lot to try and pick out little nuggets. So I've managed to pick this one out. Again, I've done a video on you, and you, so I'd ask you to watch that video, and then this could be you too, so to speak. The second video on you. So we're going to listen to the audio clip where a caller has phoned in to the talk show and asked Carl about the term you in relation to letter writing and how it's used, and Carl's just basically putting some context about his use of the word you. So let's have a little read or listen of this.
Pull the you game then, because you were saying I didn't do it correctly in the paperwork. I didn't execute it the right way. When do you use that correctly?
Like I said, the you game is the only time I use you game is when they're originally sending me some documents to say, I see that in this letter that you sent to me, IRS, you refer to me as you. Do you mean thee, thou, or thy? Do you mean me in a singular sense or me in a plural? Do you believe that there's joinder between I, a man, and I and my person? And do you believe I'm bound by some sort of contract or rules or terms of obligations in which I subscribed?
I'll just pause it there. He's gone over a hell of a lot of information there, which will probably pass you by. So I'll go through this, I'll explain some things about you, and then maybe you should listen over what Carl says about the word you again there. But there's so many points of law that Carl's just spouted over there by basically briefing over all the angles that you's being used for when a letter is written to you.
You see what I'm saying? In that kind of a context, when somebody's saying that I believe you owe me money, who, me and my person, or just me, the man? Who do you believe owes the money? The man who's going to testify in open court, or the person? Which one do you believe owes you the debt? Who's going to testify in open court, or the person?
Okay.
Which one do you believe?
So you can see the response from that guy. He's just that's either information overload or rewiring overload, or he just couldn't get his head around what the word you actually means. And I've explained in my previous video, you is a plural. Yeah, you, Y-O-U, or Y-O-U-S-E, it's a plural.
Owes you the debt.
So that's the angle Carl's basically reiterating. This you you're speaking of, is it you as in I and my person, or is it you as in some sort of person of your design, of your making?
And that's what you asked too. Do you believe I owe a debt? Do you believe it is true? And do you believe it is due or posted?
Well, the reason why I asked the you to them is I'm getting joined between them as a man and them in their official capacity under color of law, because you can't sue them under color of law. You can't sue the prosecuting attorney. You can't sue a judge. You can't sue a court clerk. But you can sue Susie, who acts as a court clerk. You can sue Bob, who acts as a judge. You can sue Joe, who acts as a cop. But you can't sue cop, Joe, judge, or clerk.
So what he's saying there is he's trying to get them out of their standing, out from behind their little protective person, i.e. a cop, a judge, a clerk. Because these things, this is what PR, a lot of people do this and don't realise the difference, is when they say, the police are a bunch of arseholes, that's police brutality. Police this, police that. The thing is, it lets you and I think about, let's write something down, let's think of a word like hero, a person, right? Let's think of a hero. Let's write down all the things that we believe a hero is. Well, a hero is going to be brave, a hero is going to be just, a hero is going to represent a cause, he's going to hopefully act in accordance to the belief of the people who believe that heroic deeds are going to be done by the hero. The hero is going to be a protector of the weak, maybe. The hero might just be someone who does charity, or was a stranger in the right place at the right time to pull someone out of a burning vehicle. These are all heroic deeds. A hero, yeah. So there's no way that a hero, in the definition of hero, that you're going to have someone doing, oh, that's heroic brutality, like in police brutality. You understand? The hero is perfect. The word is defined. So when you say a police brutality, the police as an office is incapable of brutality. It's not a definition within the framework of police. Okay, so when someone says police brutality, is it an oxymoron, I think is the term used? It can't happen. Okay, because a policeman doesn't beat up innocent public people, doesn't use heavy-handed tactics. The police uses their judgment, and they're relying on the man or the woman who's acting in the role of policeman to know this and have good judgment and good sense. The moment the policeman is doing brutality, it is no longer police brutality, it's Dave beating up his fellow man or brutalizing his fellow man. Yeah? So that's the difference there, which is always termed incorrectly. There's no such thing as police brutality. It's Dave's become a brutal human being, and he's picking on or brutalizing his fellow human being. So it's the same with the heroic, yeah. So a hero brutality or a hero villain. You know, these are oxymorons. These things can't happen. But these terms are always thrown about. Oh, I hate the government. The government's so evil. The government this. There's no way that can happen. It's only a bad use of terminology. It's a way of the them, the what, the fictions being held to account. It's a shield, it's a badge, it's a screen between the actual bad deeds being done by the individual, the wrongdoing, if you like. So that's what Karl is doing. He's using this terminology. Hi, Karl, you owe us money. Oh, really? You believe I'm you? Which you are you talking to? Bob, as he always likes to say, or Dave, or Susie. So he's trying to get, immediately, he gets them out from behind their color, protection. Or what they believe or perceive to be some sort of protection by not signing letters, using fictional titles, signing off as the department of such and such, or the police department. Not even signing a letter and writing back to you as the police department. Oh, that's lovely. So you basically received a letter from nobody. Yeah, no one. No one wishes to put their name to it because they know what they're up to. They don't want to be liable. Liable is the magic word. Who's got liability for these beliefs? So that's basically what Karl's basically using this tactic about how you can be used to kind of counteract or to rebut, I suppose, the assumptions that are being imposed on you. These are presumptions, well, absolutely presumptions and possibly even assumptions that are being imposed upon your person.
Well, when you say, do you believe I owe a debt? So when I was saying that to the state prosecutor, do you believe I owe a debt? Is state prosecutor Bob and the state prosecutor uniform that you're wearing, the costume that you're wearing at this time, not only does the state prosecutor believe it, but Bob, do you also believe it as well? So Bob's going to have to take the witness stand. That's why the judge laughed, because Bob's going to have to come out of that costume and take the stand and perform.
Okay, so let me give you an example. Here's a scenario. So let's say I'm in this county, even though they're just misdemeanor warrants. I get pulled over for whatever reason. They identify me with this person. They take me in on the warrants, and then I go before the judge. That would be the time to pull the U game then, most likely, right?
No, because like I said, the big thing is you want to find out who issued the warrants. Because
that kind of stuff is hard to find out. They just put like initials, like M. Vang, you know. So you have like kind of a last name, you have an initial for a first name, but you know, it's hard to pinpoint.
The magistrate. Okay, somebody had to issue the warrant, right? And then the magistrate just stamps it to be executed, and then the sheriff's department issues it to hands it off to the deputies to go carry out the warrant. But the magistrate there should be some sort of like a seal from the magistrate.
There's a seal from the Superior Court of California from the county.
Okay, but who was then I guess like I said, because when that other lady got arrested the other day, she thinks she's on Angela's call right now. I don't know if she's still on it or not. The warrant on her. And she said the officer issued the warrant, and the magistrate granted him the warrant to have it go executed. So then the officer who was investigating the domestic violence, he issued the warrant, and he wished for the magistrate to have it delivered upon the sheriff's department so the sheriff's department could go out there and execute the warrant. So obviously she was like, well, who issued this warrant? The magistrate? I'm going to go sue the magistrate for issuing this warrant. It's like, no, the magistrate didn't issue the warrant. The magistrate just granted the issuer the warrant to be recognized as true. And then she's just going to pass it off to the sheriff's department, like 8 o'clock in the morning. The deputies all line up at the courthouse to get warrants that they have to go issue that day.
So there's a little chain of command. So, when liability arises about who's actually doing the wishing, if you like, who wishes to interfere with you, who wishes to interlope on your life, who wishes to be a burden upon you. Yeah, these are the people who create the issue, and it's something that I see quite a lot with child protection issues. Oh, if you see someone doing something naughty to a child, don't forget to report it immediately. And I was listening to LBC the other day, and the lady was phoning up about how once she reported something to the police, her name, her address, her details were then given up as the informant, if you like. And that's exactly what happens. You are liable. So all this, I want to anonymously tip off the cops to go around someone's house and interfere with a family life because I believe that the children are at risk of harm. That's a lovely belief, but you are the one instigating the interloping upon that family's affairs. So don't be surprised when the police do ask for your name and your address as a person who is essentially snitching on your neighbour. However well intentioned, essentially you are not looking out for your fellow man. You are not approaching them directly. You're sending them straight to Caesar. You're going straight to the judiciary, bringing it straight out into the public, and you're trying to do it from the curtain of privacy that you can just tip off the state, and the state will go down like a ton of bricks on these people and smash up a family because of your rumor, your hearsay, your speculation, or however truthful or untruthful it may be. And this is what I have an issue with, and people are also finding out that the goading of people to dob in their fellow man, whether it's child protection or anything. Hey, report your neighbours to the government. That's what we need. We need you to do that. It just fractures society, and that's not how you do it. If someone genuinely has an issue with something in their life, whatever it is, if something's not right, the first thing you do is you man up and you speak to them about it. You say, is that the right thing to be doing? Because I see it, and it's not sitting in my stomach. That maybe perhaps there's another way. And if they react violently or aggressive, then there's ways and means to approach that problem. But giving them straight over to some sort of government judicial court, which will probably go heavy-handed straight in and separate the family, and that's a job well done. It may be a job well done on that day, but perhaps it's not the most constructive or peaceful resolution that there may be to any kind of perceived threat. So that's basically how Karl, and in this example here, so the person, the investigating officer went to the magistrate. The magistrate they're always going to grant a warrant. Okay, it's like when if you do any research on grand juries, the grand juries 9 times out of 10 will always issue the indictment because they're taking you at your word. There's no reason in law to think of someone as not being of good standing unless they have a history of being a douchebag. So this is why when you lay in information before a magistrate or a grand jury, an indictment, then yeah, they're going to take you at your word. They're going to say, yeah, fine, no problem. We'll take you at your word if that's what you believe. You've got the evidence and facts to back that up. Okay, that looks reasonable. Then go right ahead. They're going to issue the warrant. They're going to issue the indictment, and that, like Karl says, that goes off from the person who issued the warrant. Issues it to the magistrate. The magistrate stamps it. The warrant then goes off to the sheriff. The sheriff then says, right, deputy, go out and do that warrant because I've got donuts to eat or whatever, and that's how the game works. But it all goes back to the man who issued the warrant, essentially the order. Who ordered this pizza? That man did. All right, that man needs to pay for it then, and that's how liability chain works. So regardless of all these these letters that you might get saying you this, you that, just be aware that they're just trying to get joinder, as Karl says. They're trying to establish a joinder. They're trying to establish control over you by not defining the you that they reference. They're just youing you until you're blue in the face. Now, I thought, well, let's look at the word you. Bright light. Right. So you, Old English you, almost like a goat, is it, or a baby lamb? Is it a sheep? A you, dative and accusative. Sorry, dative and accusative. So when you say you there, you people, you, all of you, and obviously all of you would always be a plural as well. Dative and accusative plural. See thou. Objective of ye, that's Germanic. Gidrinken, or something like that. There's a ye, see ye from Proto-Germanic, Saxon, Frisian, Middle Dutch, so and even German. I think it's even French as well. Has some roots in this word you. So it's an ancient word. Pronunciation of you and the nominative form ye gradually merged in the 14th century. Distinction between them passed out of general usage by 1600. Widespread use of French in English used after the 12th century gave English you the same association with the French vous. Voulez-vous, coucher, will you, voulez-vous. Won't say the rest, but you know the song. And it began to drive out the singular nominative thou against originally a sign of respect. So thou being the single and the royal we. When addressing superiors, then equals and strangers, and ultimately by the 1575 became the general form of the address, though the 13th century English also retained the dual pronoun ink. So you two, your two selves, and each other, again the accusative, you two, over there, come here. Your two selves, so it's always again it's relating back to the plural, and each other. So there's always, they're dealing with one or more person. Well, they're dealing with more than one person. So when you receive a letter saying you, as Karl says, he writes back and saying, well, who's this you? So you could say, who's this you refer to? Ask him, what context? Because I am Anthony or Dave or Bob. I am a singular. I am the man. So who is this you? So that's a very simple and poignant question to write back to him and say, who is this you? Please define this you that you are referring to. Because again, you can use you because you're accusing them back. So it's how this you gets thrown around. It's kind of like in court where they sometimes say, some people always says you should never answer questions in court. You should be the one asking the questions in court. Because if you're asking questions, you're directing. If you're answering questions, you're receiving a question, therefore you're answering it. You're being submissive in a way. You're responding. Whereas if you're in control and command of your court, you're the one. The king gives out his he asks the questions. He doesn't. The king doesn't answer your questions, which is why you're not supposed to ask the Queen Elizabeth, which is quite a common thing. You're not supposed to address her directly, in a traditional sense. It would be improper to do so. People do it all the time, and obviously she's like, "Hey, who's the Queen around here?" But she's a very forgiving monarch, so she's very kind enough to look over these things. Now, just to get some more context, I like to look at this thing, the free dictionary, which is an online dictionary, and here they have the dictionary uses, and they also have the legal dictionary uses, and they've got all kinds of thesauruses and idioms, which are quite interesting. But here it's just to relate it back to the you as a pronoun, again used to refer to one or ones being addressed. So when you're addressing someone, I'll lend you the book. You shouldn't work so hard. Used to refer to an indefinitely specified person. Indefinitely specified person. One, you can't win them all. You can't win them all. Non-standard used reflexively as the indirect object of a verb. You might want to get another pair of shoes. You might want to get another. It also says, see note me. And now I'll cover me on another day, but me and you. Me is like the plural of I. Me and my person, yeah? Which is obviously, again, plural. Which is why Karl always uses the I. Are you talking to me or are you talking to I? Refers to the person addressed or to more than one person, including the person or persons addressed, but not including the speaker. So again, if you're writing the letter, you're kind of dictating out. Say, hey, you there. So you're kind of, you've got the seniority, if you like, over the people you're addressing. You know better. The culprit is among you. Yeah, that's interesting. Among you is in the group, the crowd, the multitude, the people, the persons. Also, one refers to an unspecified person or peoples in general, or people in general, because people is a plural by itself. You don't have to say peoples. You can't tell the boys from the girls. Chiefly US, a dialect word of yourself, or yourselves. You should get you a wife now. Informally, the personality of the person being addressed, or something that is expressed, that expresses it. That hat isn't really you. See, again, relating to you and your character. That hat, that's quite nice because it's almost like the persona, the mask. That mask, that person isn't really you. That hat really isn't you. You know, it doesn't suit you. You know what you know who. Oh, hang on. You know what you know who. You know what you know who. A thing or person that the speaker cannot or does not want to specify. Here we go. A thing or a person that the speaker, coming back to the addressing. So I'm addressing a crowd, a group, a bunch of people. A thing or person that the speaker cannot or does not want to specify. So they're not going to specify who or what you are, but you over there are being addressed by I. So, I mean, I'll freeze the screen, have a little read. I'll go down, or by all means go to the website and have a little read of all of this. But you can see how you is very much a senior position speaking to the receiver. You know, the receiver's being told in some respects, we're telling you what it is that you should or should not be doing. Let's quickly go to the legal dictionary and just see if there's anything. Oh, it's gone. Nothing in the legal. See, I always find that interesting where one of these tabs doesn't control. So it goes back to 1. Interesting. So there we go. I'm sure there's a reason for that in its own right, but there we go. So there we are. And I just thought that's a nice way of looking at how you is used. So when someone writes a letter to you, they are very much speaking to you, whether defined or not defined. So it's quite right in many respects to write back immediately and say, thank you for your correspondence. Please define what you believe you are addressing or speaking to. As you could just leave it as that, or you could give away freely who you are. You as a singular, or thou would be a thou, wouldn't it? Which is why Karl wrote back in a cute way, saying, "Do you mean thou? Do you mean thy? Do you mean, you?" There's all these kind of, it's a kind of a bit of a mishmash of all kind of terminology that we used. And you could end up hating the word. You think, oh, it's a trick word, never use it. But actually, think about it. It's taking the language and it's kind of standardizing it, just saying you, instead of having to say thou, thy, ye, and all that kind of oldie worldy formalized English. And just look, we're going to take all that rubbish and we're going to stick it into one lovely one size fits all word saying you, which is fantastic from a day-to-day conversation point of view and the simplicity of conversation. But you can see when it's used in a certain way in terms of trying to convince you that you owe money, then you can see how it can be used as a tool for convincing you that you are a naughty boy and you have bills to pay because you've done something, or we're trying to convince you that you have done something that requires some sort of payment or fine, amercement, whatever you want to call. But there we are. So there's just a follow-on video to the word you, and I hope that helps in some respects. But the word you is something you should always take with a pinch of salt.